Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your day and you being part of ours. We're going to continue the conversation about 10 things that we suggest to help your garden grow better this year. But first, a word from Honeybee Healthy.
Since 2000, Honeybee Healthy Inc. has helped beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Attracting pollinators to your garden this year is as simple as hanging a hummingbird feeder with a mixture of sugar water and Honeybee Healthy Original. Don't be alarmed to see birds, bees, and butterflies doing this together. At the feeder, pollinators coexist peacefully. Honeybee Healthy is offering a 10% discount on an 8-ounce bottle of Honeybee Healthy Original to the show's listeners. Enter code BEGARDEN at checkout. That's BEE Garden at checkout. For more information, mixing instructions, and to purchase products, visit honeybeehealthy.com. That's honey, the letter B, healthy.com. That intro music was really punchy.
Punchy? If you are not able to capture those locations and those coupon codes that are provided throughout the program, you can go to our parent website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, and click on the Money tab at the top of the page, and they're all listed for you. And you just remember them as you go to their checkout. You just click on the image, and it'll take you to their website, and you can save on what they're offering.
I'm feeling punchy, and I was going to say they should just listen more carefully.
Well, some people are driving. Some people are driving.
I'm just kidding.
And keep your hands on the wheel.
Please keep your hands on the wheel.
Don't drive fast and take chances.
Yes. Stay in your own lane.
In a lot of things.
In a lot of things in life, yeah.
All right, we'll continue here. Watch for the squash vine borer. Many people have difficulty not being able to grow zucchini.
Why don't you talk about the squash vine borer? Well, I can explain what it is.
Yeah.
So squash vine borer is it's a little insect. I don't even know how big it is, but
it's a moth.
I knew it was a moth. So what happens is that it likes to insert its eggs into the base of squash plants. So the base stems of squash plants, everything but the butternut.
Yes.
No, yes. Butternut squash. So it can be zucchini, acorn,
pumpkin,
buttercup, all of those squashes, just not the butternut squash, even like the pink banana squash or whatever it's called. So what it does is it puts those eggs into the base of the plant. Then you go out to look at your plant and you're like, oh, it looks like it needs to be watered, but I'm pretty sure it was watered yesterday. So you water it because the plant will look all wilty and blah. So if you see that, especially like, I don't know, like what, July maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Typically like we're in zone 6. I wanted to say 5.
We were.
And you're like, that my plant looks sad and I'm going to water it. Check the base of the stem. Now what happens is once those eggs obviously hatch, the larva starts to eat the inside of the stem. And if you've never grown squash, the stem of squashes are typically like pencil thick or thicker. They become thicker, but in the beginning, they're about pencil thick. So there's plenty of room for those larvae to kind of eat and move around. So then you'll see the larva, and what you can do is you can then take a little, box cutter knife, pull the larva out. They do crawl up to taller parts of the stem, so make sure you look for them everywhere. And then you can just like toss some dirt on it. It'll scab over, but you're going to save yourself a lot of time.
Yeah, you want to vertically cut an insert and then open it up a little bit. You don't want to detach it from the root system to the stalk.
Vertical.
Yeah, then it's dead. But as you do that, you're going to basically cut a small chunk out of that stalk or that stem, and you're going to see those white larvae, and that's what you're going to remove. Larvae. If you want a more visual representation of that, you can go to thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, and in the search bar put squash vine borer, and we've got a handful of videos showing how to do such that. Next one is squash undercover. Now, we all want to get a jump start on a lot of things in the garden, and oftentimes we may try and fail because the temperatures do not cooperate with us. What we have found to work successful in planting zucchini, we talked about squash vine borer, that's later on in its life. This is right at the time of planting. Typically, where we're at, we will plant summer squash, zucchini, crookneck, Memorial Day weekend. Now, what we have found is if we can plant it May 1st, we plant it as normal in the soil, and we take a metal, or now they are like cardboard, aluminum covered coffee cans, the big ones, the 5 pound ones. cut the bottom out of it, and then leave the opaque lid on and cover it over the planting of the squash, like a greenhouse. The squash is going to take a good 1 week to germinate. And then you can watch that, and if it gets too large inside of it, you can crack the lid slightly. And then over the course of second week in May, third week in May, Memorial Day's here, you can vent that coffee can, and it will begin to harden off, and you are basically got a 30-day head start on your squash. Bonus, in some instances, not 100%, but it doesn't hurt, that coffee can around the base can also detour that squash vine borer from getting down into and inserting the larvae into the stalk itself. We've seen that both ways, but it doesn't hurt to have a little more barrier around it. Not everybody wants to do that, but it does work. We are able to get a little more squash started earlier. Irrigation, Holly, is the key here to success.
So I didn't realize when we first started using irrigation what it was exactly, because when I was growing up, we would drive past farms and we would see these big metal, metal.
Oh, the big, basically radio antennas, towers, horizontal, spraying water.
Yeah.
With big wheels, and it would progressively
And I would say, what is that? And my parents would say, that's irrigation.
Uh-huh.
So
we had a neighbor
Yeah.
back on the farm when he was alive. He had a pond, and the tractor would run all night, and it would work its way across the field. Yeah. Hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water.
Right. So anyway, when you were like, we're going to do irrigation, I was like, we're going to put these huge,
big giant irrigation.
Well, I mean, obviously I knew it wasn't going to be like that huge, but like I didn't realize
you didn't understand drip or soaker hose type of irrigation.
Right. So if you're like me and you're like, that seems like a lot, it's not. You do have to soaker hose or drip irrigation. You do have to be kind of strategic about how you're going to place it around your garden.
Dripworks.com or EatonBrothers.com for your irrigation.
Yeah, so you have options, and it's an investment. I will say that it's not exactly like cheap up front, but it's worth it because you have your consistent watering.
$80 to $150 at on an average. You can do most gardens. And it's incredible how well the plant grows when it's getting proper hydration on a daily basis and not getting watered whenever it rains.
Right, exactly. So you do have a lot of control there. And that's the important part is like we've learned over these years that a lot of times when people have problems with their plants, vegetables, etc., it's because of a lack of consistent watering. And I hate to say it, but a lot of us are in a drought. And at this point, it's not going to get any better.
So, yeah, and they have timers where we run it at 8, noon, and 5 for 20 minutes a day, for 20-minute increments. So it's 1 hour a day, and it works very well to keep the plants hydrated. Another way, in addition to the irrigation, is mulching. There's many different types of natural mulches in which you can apply on top of your soil. Mulches do multiple tasks. 1, holds the moisture in. 2, cools the soil. 3, suppresses some, not all of the weeds. So by doing that and keeps the soil healthier, allows more good insects to be active closer to the top of the soil. And we learned last week, it's horizon is the scientific term, not topsoil. It does all these things. And what can you use as mulch? You can use chemical-free, seed-free grass clippings. You can use leaves. You can use chemical-free straw. You can use shredded paper. You can use sometimes landscape fabric. Many different mulches you can use. You can buy mulch, or you can manufacture it on your property naturally if you're not applying chemicals on your lawn in order to do other things like weed and feed.
Right.
But if you're not mulching, you're missing out. If you're not wanting to irrigate, you need to mulch. If you're irrigating, also mulch.
Right, absolutely. So then let's talk about some root crops here.
Yep.
And so what happens with these root crops specifically is that either the seeds are super, super, super tiny or they're cluster seeds. And so with these
what is a cluster seed?
I'll explain in a second.
All right.
With these 3 plants, root crops, you want to thin them out. So once you plant them, you might see a lot of sprouts coming up, and then you want to thin them, which means you just basically either pull out or cut the sprouts so that there's proper spacing of the plants. And this includes carrots and parsnips, even radishes, and I think even turnips have really small seeds.
Turnips,
too.
rutabagas, yeah.
So anything like kind of in that realm, you want to thin those out once you plant them, because you might plant more than one per like little spot, and it just happens.
And if you don't thin them out, you're going to get top, but you're not going to get the bulb.
Yeah.
This doesn't apply to like leaf lettuce or spinach.
No, this is for the
or Swiss chard. Right. Yeah. These are the root crops. Yes.
Right. And then for beets come in a cluster seed. Basically, it's just the seed is just many seeds, probably like 3 or 4, I don't know, in the seed, what looks like one seed. So that's why you want to thin those out, because it's a cluster of seeds, and then once it starts to sprout, you'll see many sprouts, and then you just want to go ahead and thin out. You just want to pick the best looking one.
Now, it's nothing you can do in order to fix that. That's the way the plant naturally reproduces seeds in that cluster seed. You're not going to break them apart and get one seed, break all. It's not going to happen that way. Work on, and we're going to bonus one here. Work on planting more perennial plants, such as berries, Jerusalem artichokes, asparagus, strawberries, etc., fruit trees. In addition to that.
Yeah. So you just want to make sure that if you live in a place, or you're growing in a place that you can, that you would have a likeliness of being able to appreciate the perennial plants, you want to plant them. Maybe if you are living somewhere you don't want to, you don't know if you can appreciate the perennial plants, you can still plant them. But yeah, you want to do that. That way you have, it's kind of a more permaculture ideal where
less work.
You're less work. You are kind of lazy gardening in a way, and you have those plants that keep coming back.
Right, and less work, and they do the work for you. Well, soon it'll be warming up, Holly, and you will want to protect your yard from those beetles, grubs, those Japanese beetles, and those grubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Spring is here, and spring has sprung, and those Japanese beetles
in some portions
are just probably lurking around waiting. And Grub Gone can help with that.
Grub Gone can be applied directly to the turf or around ornamentals to control grubs and lessen the impact the beetles have on your yard this summer. Easy to apply with any commercial spreader or irrigate it right in the soil, created specifically to target the grubs and beetle invaders without harming those beneficial insects such as bees, butterflies, and ladybugs.
Yeah, so it's the only BT that works, the non-chemical BT that works. You can find out more at phyllumbioproducts.com. That's phyllumbioproducts.com, PHYLLOM, bioproducts.com.